Everybody, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be joined by someone who has a magnificent shelf behind them. Just going to say that. One of my favorite board games back there, Taboo. And that creator that I'm talking about is Justin Peniston. Justin, thank you for jumping in and joining.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for saying yes. I usually start out by naming a couple of works. And so you've worked in animation, you've worked in comics,
Yes.
on such titles as Blue Beetle, I believe some JSA that's out there. In animation, you've worked in Sonic Prime being one of those, and Ben
Yes,
10.
Sonic Prime. Yeah.
hmm
Um, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I was also just going to mention some of your more independent or creator-owned work, and I want to make sure I get these names right. So Hunter Black, Rocket Queen, and The
And the
Wrench.
wrench.
Yep,
Rocket
sorry,
Queen and
couldn't
the
read
wrench.
my own handwriting there. Rocket Queen, and The Wrench. So you have created widely.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. I've been lucky to do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So curious. I usually like to ask about that connection, a little bit of the origin story of what drew you to the written word and to the world of creating.
Um, you know, I was a young, voracious reader. And I always fancied myself a writer. I mean, even as a little guy, I was, trying my hand at prose and writing stuff. But it never occurred to me that it was a career. I mean, I loved it so much, I assumed it was not, it wasn't work, you know?
Right, right.
It really wasn't until late high school, college age that it occurred to me that this is something I can pursue as a career.
Yeah.
Um, and, changed my whole direction of thought. I'd been planning to try to follow a pre-law track, but that was just because that's what I thought I should be doing, not because it was something I had a passion for in particular.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I mean, I've always been a reader. I couldn't imagine not being a writer. So, yeah.
I love it. I love that connection with reading and writing and creating. What's it like to create across media from animation to comics?
You know, um, I love stories.
hmm
And I find, I mean, in my head, like each medium is just kind of like a volume in the encyclopedia, if that makes
hmm
sense.
hmm
Like comics conveys information differently than animation does, which is different than prose, which is different than live action. Um, and I mean, I've devoured great media in all of those things, so they all appeal to me. So I take swings at all of them,
Yeah.
Sometimes a story will pop into my head and I'm like, oh, this isn't a comic, this is animation, or this is television.
hmm
Um, so I have been fortunate to, I mean, let's be real. When you're a writer, the vast majority of us have other jobs.
Right, right.
And I worked as a very long time for as a bartender. And so meeting people and getting to know people and talking to people has never been very difficult for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, I was working in comics. I managed to squeeze my way into comics a little bit. And some of the people I met who are also working in both media, were like, "Hey, have you ever written any animation? No? Would you like to?" And
hmm hmm
so, I mean, I would love to think I've got some modicum of talent, but a huge part of it, especially in the Hollywood side of the business, is are you someone people enjoy working with? Because it's so collaborative.
Yeah.
And I try to be easy to get along with. So, you know.
Yeah, yeah, the can't say enough for good collaborations and that collaborative spirit, the give and take, and people that open up the doors of opportunity to say, "Hey, have you, and would you like to?"
it's so important, I try to be helpful to other writers as much as I can. It's not, I mean, that could be a full-time job in and of itself, but like I I try to lift other writers up if I can. I don't feel like writers are in competition with one another,
Hmm.
you know? Um, and I mean, in a writer's room, I've always thought best to be the champion of the best idea, regardless of whose it is.
Yeah.
And I'm also the guy that's, oh, if you don't love my take, you should look at this person. They're really smart. They've got real good chops, blah blah blah. I love other writers. I do. I love the community. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Honoring stories, sharing stories, and a lot of the work that you do is just fun as well. Just having fun with storytelling.
Yes, absolutely. It's a blast. Um, sometimes sometimes I feel guilty when I do something and I get paid for it because I'm having so much fun doing it. So yeah.
That's a good thing. Very good thing. Um, what's the process like of world building and kind of getting those creative inspirations for you?
Um, World building is one of my favorite things. Um, I try really hard. And the funny thing is, a lot of my world building, I mean, the basics take place in the planning stage.
Hmm.
Um, because when you're setting up conflicts and obstacles, that's all part of the world, in some way. But then, you know, when people talk, they don't not talk about the specifics of their world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're talking to somebody, you might say, "Hey, I went down to this store on this street." And you would just say that, and everyone, and it's normal. And characters should do that too. And
Hmm.
so I like to I like to build the world not just in the planning stage, but also in the writing slash scripting stage,
Hmm.
you know. And I find that I create a lot of small details that make a world hopefully, feel more fully realized in
Yeah.
that stage. Just trying to capture people and the way they talk, it does that brings a lot to the world building, for me actually.
Hmm.
And I often find, especially with like in my webcomic Hunter Black, the things that people say off the cuff at
Hmm.
one point in the story, I eventually will find a way to expand on that small detail, later. It just it makes the world bigger and it makes creates more opportunities for me to tell stories. So I love world building. I think if done right, you never make the world building the story.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
story is about the characters, but characters they gotta eat, they gotta sleep, they gotta live. And you want that world, the food they eat, the place they live and sleep, you want that all to feel as real to the reader as it does to the character. So
Yeah. Yeah. All those textures.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned webcomics, and webcomics are just this accessible, wonderful way of storytelling. And I've just been struck as a teacher to see how many of my students, they might not read other things necessarily, but I can walk by and like see a student scrolling through a webcomic on their laptop or on their cell phone or something like that. It's just fantastic what that opens up for worlds too.
I love that. I love webcomics. I mean, it's a true democratization of story and talent. All you got to do is want it and you can
Yeah.
do it. Um, and my partner Will does the art, and we've been doing Hunter Black for 12 years, and it's truly been a labor of love. I mean, and it was inspired by a comic we loved, and we were like, oh, we want to do something that made us feel like this, and like it's a real. I mean, we do not make much money on it at all. But we're having a blast, and
Yeah.
that's really, you know, and hopefully the regular our small audience of passionate readers feel that love for it when they read it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned collaboration, so to get to work with a friend and make something that you love, there's that whole reward process to it too, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the great things about collaboration is, I mean, I always feel like I'm the guy trying to keep up
Hmm.
whenever I'm
Hmm.
with other writers, you know what I mean, or other storytellers. I always feel like I'm the guy who, like, I have to work to be as good as everybody else. And I think a lot of people feel that way, you know what I mean? But it's a wonderful, like, it lights a fire under you, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it, it's
Hmm.
it's friendly. It's weird because it's almost like collaborative competition,
Yeah.
you know? I want to be just as good as that guy. I want to make sure I'm, being as productive and as a part of the final product as that guy or that, or that lady. Um, and but you're not trying to tear them down. It's not that kind of competition. You're trying to beat them. You're trying to
Yeah.
join them.
Yeah.
But I love that feeling. I love it. It's great to feel like you have to work to catch up because that fire, that desire to be better makes you better, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so back to that idea of world building, any worlds that you've not created in that you would like to?
You mean like settings that already exist, like franchises I like to work on or things like
Uh-huh,
that?
uh-huh. Well, and or that you sort of imagine out there, but I was thinking franchises.
I mean, let's be real. Um, I'm a guy, I'm an American guy in his early 50s.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I want to write Star Wars one day.
Right, right.
That was Star Wars is arguably, you know, the thing that really lit the fire in my belly. I loved that movie so much when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a really rich setting.
Hmm.
I love heroes. I love the idea of good versus evil. I love that real basic primal, desire to do the right thing and to not hurt people if you can get away with it. Like, and I think Star Wars has always had a theme of family running through it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, my family life was a struggle and it has always informed, family has always informed a lot of my work.
Yeah.
And whether it's, family by blood or found family, chosen family. Um, and so Star Wars, I mean, I have a plethora of Star Wars ideas. But I'd love to write for Star Trek too. I like them both. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are probably the two things that I would swoon over, getting the opportunity to work with Star Wars and Star Trek.
Favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
Yep, yep, yeah.
Empire Strikes Back. Really, like the question is, if it's not Empire, what's your next favorite? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
right.
most
Hmm.
people would say Empire, but there are a few people who won't. But what's your second favorite Star Wars movie? And for me, that's it's a struggle. It's Rogue One slightly edges out The Last Jedi.
Oh, nice, nice. All right,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, yeah.
I like
Those are all
Star
well
Wars
done.
things that push the envelope, that go in a slightly different direction, that aren't as expected,
Hmm. Hmm.
that catch me by surprise. And those are the Rogue One and Last Jedi really caught me by surprise. So that's why I like those. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's the storyteller Star Wars right there. I love it. So you mentioned being a bartender, and
Yeah.
I was going to ask creative mixes right now that are happening. Any particular works that you want to shout out that are in development, recent, in process?
Well, the things that I'm currently working on, most of which I can't really discuss at the moment.
Hmm. Hmm.
I do always want to, I mean, Hunter Black, we've been doing it for 12 years, and we're probably starting to circle in on the end game of the big story.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I think we probably have another year or two in us, but we're definitely starting to see the finish line. Um, and so, I'm always happy for people to discover Hunter Black. So check us out at hunterblackcomics.com. Um, but yeah, everything else, like new stuff in animation is all very, it's so early in the process, and I can't really discuss it.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it right now. I'm also working on a couple of graphic novel projects, but those also haven't been announced yet, so I can't discuss those either.
Cool.
I'm
Cool.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
I
No, no worries at all. I always like to hear that there are things in the pipeline and
yes.
work on the way. So excited about that. And you shared the website for Hunter Black. I'll also mention you have a great website as well to peruse for your work. Any other spaces? There will be links. I will put the links in the show notes and on the video and things. But any other spaces where you like to connect and share work?
There are three more, besides hunterblackcomics.com, three more sites where you can look for me.
Hmm.
Um, justinpeniston.com,
Hmm.
which is just, and I need to update that site a little bit, but um, massivechaos.com. I work with a group of people, artists and writers. We are like an animation collective. We do a lot of development and stuff. Um, and you can check out some of our work and connect with us there. And I also occasionally podcast. Um, and you can find us.
Great.
I'm one of the co-hosts of the Popsicle podcast group, and that's POPSKL, POPSKL, and we talk about we break down stories and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the fun places to find me. And you can find me almost anywhere on social media at Hunter Black Com X. Um,
Fantastic.
everything but Twitter.
All right.
I have
Awesome.
opted out of Twitter finally.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Same. Yeah. Well, Justin, thank you for the time at the end of a long day. Thank you for the work and the creativity, and yeah, thanks for exploring some storytelling and craft with me for a little bit.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this. It's really cool to have people out there, propping up little writers and helping us, get seen, and I think it's really cool. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for saying that. Glad to have you back anytime.
All right, excellent.